I want to touch upon, I made a list here, but it's a comprehensive list, but it's not exclusive. Rabbi Katz, you gave out the handout? You gave out the handout? Okay. So it's basically bullet points about different things that I thought would be crucial, important for you to think about before you go, if you're staying here or whether you're going to Chutz La'aretz or anywhere else. Things to think about. It's not an exclusive list, but it's something that I think whatever's on the list, you should be taking into account. And this way you'll be somewhat prepared for Pesach. As an introduction, Pesach in general is a super duper chag. Pesach has in its challenges of being ready for Pesach. There are those that are ready for it a month before. Obviously that's a little bit on the extreme side. There are those that are ready a week before. There are those that are ready a few days before. And there are those that are never ready. No. And there are those that are ready at the buzzer. But as the joke goes, everybody sits down at the Seder at the same time. For some reason, everyone sits down, everyone makes it. So there's no reason for any lachas, any pressure. You just need a plan about what you have to do, what has to be done, and the mitzvah Shem between Rosh Chodesh Nisan and Erev Pesach, which is 14 plus days, depending whether you count Friday or not. In any event, so that should be enough time to make yourselves ready for Pesach. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to start, I think, from number 1. It has 8 points here. Again, this list is not exclusive. It's comprehensive, but not exclusive. I'm going to ask a favor of everybody that if they have any questions as we go along, if we have time at the end of this year, it's fine. If not, I think you should jot it down while we're talking. This way, when you get a chance to meet me later during today or tomorrow, Bezat Hashem, we'll be able to address that particular point that you have trouble with, and this way we'll be able to cover as much ground as possible. Okay, so let's start. So, the halacha is that 30 days before Pesach, even though Pesach is not here yet, but the halacha is that 30 days, which we are now, everyone knows that Purim, Shushan Purim for sure, is 30 days within Pesach. The halachas of Pesach start, which means that anybody who's leaving here to go to Chutz La'aretz or anywhere else, he won't be at home at all. He must make a bedikas chametz. Bedikas chametz means he has to search for the chametz. Now that may sound a little bit odd. Why are you searching for chametz? You're searching for chametz and you're not going to be there. What's the point of searching for chametz? Now this search of chametz, you'll see on your bullet points here. We'll go through it quickly. There's no bracha. It's 30 days before Pesach. There's no bracha. There's no 10 pieces. There's nothing here that you need to do other than look and search for chametz. What are you looking for? You're making sure that your place that you're going to leave is going to be in order. The halacha prescribes a very interesting, fascinating point that although we don't look and we expect different challenges or different surprises, but God forbid there could be a surprise that maybe by some odd reason you won't make it to your destination and you have to go back to where you came from. And then you'll be stuck because your place was not cleaned or searched or even prepared at all for Pesach. So Chazal said, if you're before the 30-day mark, you're not obligated to prepare yourself within this challenge. But if you're within the 30-day mark of Pesach, which is we are now, so everyone who leaves their place of residence, wherever it may be, is obligated, midrabanan, rabbinically, to make a search for Pesach. Now, in our situation, let's make it very clear. We live in the dorm, we don't live in a house. It should be much easier. That's number 4. You're only obligated to make a search of your chametz on your personal belongings, your personal space, your personal possessions. You are not obligated to make sure that there is no chametz anywhere else in the room. However, stay tuned. You are not obligated. The issue of chametz is, the Torah tells us, lo yira'eh velo yimatzeh. You cannot see chametz and you cannot possess chametz. You should not be found in your possession. That is only restricted to chametz that you own. You may own it here, you may own it in Chutz La'aretz. You have to get rid of that chametz in Chutz La'aretz. God willing, we'll talk about the chametz in Chutz La'aretz if you have any chametz or anything else that you have to get rid of. We'll get to that soon. But at the moment, you are searching for your personal chametz. Any other chametz that's in the room or in your personal space that's not yours. And, very important, you do not have any responsibility on that chametz. You're not a shomer, you're not a guardian. If something gets lost or something gets damaged to that personal chametz of someone else, you're not liable for it. It's not yours at all. That's not what you're obligated to make sure to get rid of. You're only obligated to get rid of your own personal chametz. I'll give you a few examples in a moment. Before we go to types of chametz, which is section 2, you should check your suitcases, you should check your pockets, you should check your cubbies, you should check under your bed, you should check whatever you have. I don't know exactly how the map's out in your room, but your personal place, that's what you're obligated for. Okay, that's number 4. However, there's another issue, which is that because, Baruch Hashem, we are eating chametz all year long, 365 days of the year, we are not eating chametz, all of them, but 365 days minus 8 or 9, whatever it is, that 7 or 8, depending if you live in Israel or Chutz La'aretz, you are used to eating chametz. So we have to make sure that there's no chametz around. Now this is a very important point, because even if you're somewhere else, this is a very important point. Which means that there should not be any chametz in plain sight. Even if you took care of your own chametz, but if someone else's chametz is in front of you, the lure and the routine of eating chametz and being involved in chametz is so used to it, you're so used to it, so as if it's nothing. So to make sure that there's no chametz around is also important. It's not in your possession, so you're not obligated as a lav, as a negative commandment to get rid of it, but it should be covered. So therefore, any chametz that somebody else has in your room should be put away, should be covered. It shouldn't be in plain sight, because we're afraid, not we, but Chazal are afraid, that because of the lure of chametz and the routine of chametz, you may forget. I know it's hard to believe, but people forget. Say, oh, there's a good box of cereal here, and I got up and I was tired. I just make myself, oh, it was Pesach. It is Pesach. It's 8 days of Pesach. Oh no, what do I do? So therefore, in order to facilitate that you should not, God forbid, come to such a situation, it should be put away. If your friend is not doing that, so I suggest that you do it yourself. It doesn't have to be on the lock and key, but it should be somewhere that it's not in plain sight. It can be covered with anything. A sheet, a cardboard, it can be turned around, they can't see, it can be tucked away somewhere, but it should be put away. That's chametz that's not yours and not in your possession. Okay, so that's what I'm saying, that a person has to make sure that b'dikas chametz is done before he leaves, in case of an uneventful situation where he has to come back. So now he knows that chas v'shalom, God forbid, if something happens, his place is prepared minimally. We don't make any declaration, which we make on Erev Pesach. We don't make any burning of the chametz, which we do on Erev Pesach. All we are doing is to make sure that the chametz that I searched for, I know that my place is relatively in order. In chas v'shalom, such a situation comes up, I can come back to my place. I know you're saying to yourself, it's not happening, but God forbid, there's always surprises, and you never know. So therefore, if you can't do that, so what we say is, you make a shliach, you make an emissary, you make someone, listen, I'm going on for Pesach, do you do me a favor, you have a friend in your room, can you please do the search for chametz for me as well? You can do that, you can make a shliach, but it has to be taken care of. Make a shliach means you make an agent, you appoint someone in your stead that's going to take care of that for you. If you take care of all your chametz and you're not coming back at all, you're leaving it for good, there's no place that you're coming back for, of course you're not obligated, but it's only a situation where you still have that abode, you still have that residence, and therefore you may come back. So that's why it has to be taken care of. Otherwise, you left it for good, it's not yours anymore, so it's not yours, you're not coming back there. It's closed, going on to the next apartment. You're going somewhere else. Then the person that's coming in your stead, he's the one that has to make sure that it has to be searched for chametz if he's coming before Pesach. A crazy situation where why would he think to rent his bed to somebody else, or someone else is coming in, a new bachar is coming in. It has to be clear to him that my situation was left unsearched. So if you want to take care of it, bakasha is up to you. If you want to make a shliach on someone else in the room to take care of your place in order to facilitate that the newcomer wanted to do it, that's also fine. But the point is that it's either your obligation if you're coming back, or it's not your obligation, but that's upon the person that's coming in to make sure that it wasn't searched, so he should search it before Pesach starts. Okay, now I want to point out number 6. Number 6, Baruch Hashem, we have our in-house mashkiach, Rav Gil, should be living be well, amen. And he's, as every year, available to sell your chametz for you. You're not obligated to sell it with him. You can go to America and sell it over there. We'll speak about that in a moment. That's number 8. But he is available, and I suggest that you take care of it before you leave. Now, the chametz that you own, that you're selling, is not specifically the chametz that's here in Eretz Yisrael. It's any chametz that you own, any type of chametz, which is number two, we'll get there in a moment, whatever is classified as chametz must be out of your possession or sold. When we say sold, it's out of your possession. Don't come and say, wow, look at this loophole situation. It's like one of those type of contracts that we as Chazal made up to think that we have to 1:10, gentlemen. You got yourself 10 more minutes. Okay, here we go. So what time is Mincha? 1:17. Oh, wow. Very good. So in that case, we can go slower. So don't come and say that, oh, this contract is not really a binding contract. Gentlemen, this contract is as binding as legal is the word that can mean legal. There's no other contract that we know of in Jewish law that is as legal as the Mechiras Chametz. It's the most legal, probably, most legal. And therefore, it's a very serious contract between a non-Jew. And there's been stories, I won't bore you with them, but I'll tell you one short anecdote, that a non-Jew that was the buyer for Chametz showed up at people's doors during Chol HaMoed and said, oh, Rabbi Yosef, I see you have Johnny Walker on the third shelf. Rabbi Yosef is not going to say a word, right? Not one word. He's not even going to have a flicker of maybe hesitancy. Oh my gosh, he's taking away my JW. No. He's not thinking about that at all because it's not his at all. And then the guy went to someone else's house. Oh, Elbaz. Oh, go ahead and finish. Where do you have that? Got it. Rabbi Elbaz is not going to say one word. You can take the whole thing. It's all yours. I'm not even looking. Why? Because if you have a flicker of hesitancy in your heart, then you're saying, it wasn't a real sale, So the Rav wanted to test his congregants and said, did you guys really sell this, or you guys think it's one of those fancy loopholes? It's a real deal. And the guy, the non-Jew, got a call and said, hey, Mr. Whatever his name is, Tony, you know that you have to pay. Don't worry, Rabbi, I'm going to pay for every drop of liquor I take after the holiday. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Okay, fine. So he knows what he's doing. I don't know if he was drunk or not at the end of Pesach, but whatever it was, he was available and he paid for it. So the sale is binding. Rav Gil is not the person that you're selling your chametz to, contrary to popular belief, because why would he want your chametz? That's more of a problem for him. He is your agent. You are appointing the Rav, this person, in your stead, to take care of the chametz to be ultimately sold to the non-Jew. Now, it gets a little complicated. Number 7 is, do you want a contract which says, my chametz will be sold on the 13th of Nisan or the 14th of Nisan? The difference is very simple, but if it's really not related to you, so it doesn't matter if it's true or not, but everyone knows that at the 14th of Nisan, your chametz must be sold. That is, on the day of the 14th in the morning, your chametz must be sold. So you can take care of it and have the contract a day earlier. What's the difference? The difference is that if someone sells his chametz on the 13th, then halachically, the chametz is not his on the night of the 14th. Correct, gentlemen? Because we in Judaism believe that the day starts at night. Like Friday night is the beginning of Shabbos, like Pesach is Friday night. This year it's Friday night. All holidays and Shabbos starts at night. So the prohibition of not having chametz starts tomorrow morning, but the obligation of searching for the chametz is at night, the night of the 14th. If you sold all of your chametz the day of the 13th, so by definition, when it comes to the night of the 14th, your chametz is sold. Why would you want to search Mr. Tony's chametz? You don't have to. So that's one way how to get out of the obligation of searching for the chametz, is by selling it, preempting the obligation of being sold by having it a day early or whatever it is. So there are contracts that say, would you like this? Let's say you're not going to be here, or you won't be able to get a shaliach, whatever it may be. A Gil will help you navigate this, and this way you'll be prepared. But you have an issue because it's not so simple to absolve yourself from searching the chametz. So it's better if you had chametz and you took care of it and you searched for it, it's better. But you're not going to be there, whatever the case may be, you can make a contract which is the 13th, and then your contract will be valid even before the obligation begins, and this way you won't have a chiyuv of an obligation of searching for the chametz. One last thing on this section is here or America. We have a machlokes in the poskim, and the machlokes in the poskim is the clock starts ticking. That chametz, as in your possession, becomes out of your benefit. You can't benefit from it at all as soon as the clock strikes whatever the time is on Friday morning. Does that clock relate to where the chametz is, Or does that clock relate to where the owner of the chametz is? Meaning, let's say I'm in America, so I have 7 hours later, even though my chametz here in Israel is already over the limit of time that it should be in my possession because I am 7 hours behind. When it gets to my time, let's say in New York, that will be in the afternoon in Israel, or is it too late because the chametz is already in Israel, out of my reach? Therefore, because of this machlokes, we take the more severe view and we say, make sure that the time that you sell your chametz is the one that is the earliest of the two. The earliest of the two. Make sure that your chametz is done. So we don't want to have any chametz, whether it's you're ahead or behind. As soon as the time comes that your chametz has to be sold, wherever the chametz is or where you are, that is where it should be. So if you're selling a gil, you're in good shape because the chametz will be sold way, if you're going to America or wherever, I don't know, in the Western world. So usually Eretz Yisrael is ahead. So therefore, your chametz will be sold, you have no problem. Okay. Should we stop here for a few questions on this section, gentlemen? Yes.
I have, and I'm pretty sure it's chametz. I have two big boxes of Ferrero Rocher in my room, but they're packed as gifts for my relatives. I have no intention of eating them at all.
But it's in your possession, though, right?
But
it's yours.
Is that considered ownership if that's already tagged as a gift?
Yes, it's yours. It's yours until you give it away. It's not theirs. It's yours, right? You want to give it as a gift.
Is Ferrero Rocher how much?
What's it made out of? What's it made out of?
I don't know.
Okay. Probably.
There's a little ball.
Yeah, it probably has chametz inside. Yes, quickly. I don't know if I have time for any questions here.
Does the non-Jew have to contact you in advance before they pick it up? And
No.
If you're not, then
No.
what if you're not there when they come?
No. He just knocks on your door. He knows where you live.
You're not there, then you're voiding the contract.
No, the contract is valid no matter what, but the Rav was just testing the resolve of the congregants to make sure that they get the idea there's no jokes. But it really doesn't have to be done. It was just a shtick that he pulled.
And you're not there.
Doesn't matter. You appoint, that's exactly the point. You appointed whoever was as an emissary for you, and he executed the contract for you. So he did it. You don't have to be there. If you have to be there, then there'll be a lot of people spectating. So he did it for you.
Do we have to worry about ancestral post Pesach chametz?
Oh, we'll get there. Rabbi Riley? Jonah.
I don't know if I own any initial chametz, but am I selling crumbs? I'm selling.
Okay, we'll get there. Good point.
Your father selling chametz would be mine.
As long as you make sure that he knows that you're selling your chametz. That's included in the contract. Any questions this side? Yes?
Oh.
Sorry.
When I sold on 13th, is it stealing to eat it until the 14th?
You sell the chametz that's going to be left over. That's what's going on. Only any chametz that you eat is yours, just for eating purposes. It's stipulated in the contract.
Can you yield to someone else without their knowledge?
That's a very good question. Usually not, because they have to know that you're on their behalf, and they don't really understand what it means to sell chametz to begin with. So it's not so simple. Otherwise, we would tell every person who doesn't have religious parents that sell chametz for them and everything's good. It's not so simple because they don't really know what it means. So you can't represent someone who doesn't know what it really means. Last question, Rabbi.
How strict does one have to be with the Shalia that has to clean their room? You ask your friend, can you clean my area? Or check for comments. Guys,
Do your best. You do your best. No, you do your best. If he's a Baruch Hashem, religious Jew, we assume that he did a good job. That's it. You did the best. Okay. Yes, Rabbi.
Do you have somebody else's chametz in your
Possession.
possession?
So we said, if you're not obligated at all, you're not no responsibility, so it's not yours. That's the deal. The deal is that as long as it's not yours, it has to be covered, put away. And anything that happens to it over Pesach is not your obligation, so you have no connection to that chametz. It's not considered yours at all. So the physical chametz could belong to X, but you're not a shomer. You're very, very clear. Whatever happens to the chametz is as if it happened by itself. You can't come to me with any liability, nothing, no responsibility, zero. You're not makal b'shmir. That's what it's called. Okay, let's go to section 2. This is. You have to tell that, of course. I mean, they should know. Section 2, rabbis. This is a very important point because this is, again, not a comprehensive list because there's so much more chametz that I didn't include. It's for sure not exclusive. So let's see. All types of bread, macaroni, pretzels, mixtures, medications, stocks. That's an important one. Home, even though you're living here, but maybe you have chametz at home. In your car, even though you didn't get a chance to clean it out. Is it yours? Is it not yours? Suitcases, pockets, We've always found candies of chametz in your pockets for that little child that you wanted to see in shul that you forgot, and then you put your suit back into the closet, and then, well, lo and behold, the next time you wore it was on Pesach. You put your hand in your pocket, out comes the beautiful candy that you wanted to give to the uncle. Okay, fridge, kitchen, books. Okay, so now not all of these places or not all of these items are the same. Obviously, any types of bread, any types of pretzels, any type of macaroni, any type of leavened bread or any materials of that is all considered chametz and must be gotten rid of. Correct? That's pashut. But we have also stocks. People ask a question about stocks. So in the contract, we have a stipulation there that any stocks that you own, because you may not be able to access it, mamash, but you own it. It's in your property. You're going to make money off it one day, right? So it's going to be sold for the duration. So machlok is a poskim, but it has to be sold. According to some contracts, it's actually included in one of the things that's being sold. You can't obviously take it and give it to somebody, but it's included. Don't worry about it. It's included in there. If it's, by the way, it's very interesting that you should read the contract in English so you should know what you're signing. You know, it's not like, oh, it's on a dotted line. Maybe you're signing a life away. We don't do that. You read the fine print. So we're going to get back to the questions in a moment. So that's an important point. Books. How much do you really read while you're eating chametz, while you're eating a sandwich? How many books do you read? There are very, very severe, stringent people that say we're only going to use these 2 books over Pesach and the rest are going to put away because God forbid there's a crumb there. That's to get to the issue of crumbs. And while I'm eating my matzah, maybe the crumb will get onto my matzah and I'll be ingesting that crumb. Well, a crumb is not a kazayis. That's true, but it may have a prohibition of a smaller prohibition, not the biblical prohibition, but the prohibition of not eating anything that's of chametz. And the fact that you ate it together with something else makes it something that's choshuv. If we're talking about chametz that's bichlal, not at all edible, that's garnished. If it's dirt, that's nothing. That's 0. But we're talking about that a crumb. Okay, the crumb it's a crumb of a good kishmaka pretzel, and I didn't eat it. I didn't do that. But, I didn't know it inadvertently. It may have come into my food. So that makes it as if it's chashuv, and now I'm eating the whole thing together. So that becomes a problem. It's an idea called ach sheveh. I gave it some chashivas. Okay, if that's the case, so therefore there are some people that will only use specific books. That's a chumrah. Lav dafka, you have to go and put all your books away and only use 2 or 3 that you know for the next week. Lav davka, you have to go ahead and check every single page. But something you should think about and be aware of, especially if you want to bring it to the Pesach table, and this is a book, is a chumash, is a siddur, whatever it is, that you usually eat together with while you're reading it, you should be aware that it may have crumbs in it, and they take the necessary precautions. And those books, for sure, you should check before Pesach, but not necessarily all of your books. Okay, one more word about the fridge and the kitchen. I'm not sure if anybody here is going to an apartment, but here in Eretz Yisrael, we rent apartments, and even in America they rent apartments, Airbnbs and whatever. So there may be an issue of coming to someone else's house. You must check all the fridge, make sure there's no comments in there. You must check to see that the surfaces are clean. You must check the kitchen. That is the place where most food is being prepared. You can't just assume that everything was done before. Airbnb doesn't care about Pesach. Maybe it's a Jewish guy, I don't know. But Airbnb cares about cleanliness. Now, cleanliness has a lot of connotations. This is supposed to be clean. I come there, it's absolutely filthy, right? You expected an Airbnb to be X, and the Maisa wasn't cleaned at all. So when we're talking about Pesach, I suggest that you come before, you check it out before, make sure that you don't come the last minute, you make sure that it's up to your bar and standard of being cleaned before Pesach, and therefore you're checking. The fridge has to be clean, the countertops have to be clean, the sinks have to be clean. The most challenging place in the whole house is probably the kitchen. So the kitchen itself is a situation where you have to be the most, what's the right word? Vigilant to make sure there's no chametz there. That's the right word. Vigilant, you have to make sure that and it doesn't make a difference because you're going to be here for the next week for the Pesach holiday. So you have to make sure that this is the preparation. Now, if you have another place where it's only yours, I got it. You're not going to use the kitchen. I got it. But no chametz in view, in plain sight. Of course not. You're not going to use the fridge. Oh, I have my own fridge. Okay, so we can talk about how to make it easier for you. I have a small fridge, only a Pesach fridge, and the other fridge, I'm not going to open it. I'm not going to go in there. Not at all, etc., etc. I'm only going to use this corner. I'm not going to use the microwave. I'm not going to use the oven. I'm not going to use the stovetop. Because you're going to be in the desert, like the Jews were in the desert for 40 years. So you're going to be, after they came out of Egypt, you went to the desert, that's what you're doing. Okay, so good luck. But if you want to use the kitchen, so the kitchen has to be somewhere which is clean for Pesach. Okay. Medications. I want to point out the medications. This is something that you have to talk about before Pesach. Don't wait till the last minute. We have lists and lists of different medications that either have chametz in there, that have what's called kidneyot in there, which is another level. It's not chametz. It doesn't have to be sold. It doesn't have to be taken care of. It's a kidneyot. If you're so sick, God forbid, that you have to take a kidneyot type of medication, like a syrup of some type of, mixture of kidneyot. Kidneyot, by the way, means any type of sugar, corn syrup, or sweetener. A lot of times they have like derivatives of these sweeteners that come from what's classified as a food called kidneyot. It comes like from different things. It may or may not be. Check it out. From alcohol, from different things. Check it out. Could have a chametz issue there. Check it out. Make sure that you check out your medication that you'll be needing before Pesach. If we can't help you, there are places online that you can check. CRC has a listing. Rabbi Best in Los Angeles has a listing. OU has a listing. There are plenty of places where you can find the simple medications are for sure listed. In a particular medication, you may have to look a little bit further to find out. Okay. Very important. What do I do about my home and my room at home? What do I do about that? So, Rav Geffen, right? Rav Geffen asked if I can get someone else to do it for me. Yes, that's true. If not, when you make your own contract, you'll include all the places that you own. Let's say you have an office. Let's say you have two offices. Let's say you have more than one place that you stay, You have one home in California and one home in Eretz Yisrael, Baruch Hashem. So you have two homes. So all of those homes are your possessions. Any chametz anywhere must be taken care of. Your room has your stash that only you know of. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Shtickle secret. Well, guess what? It's got to be put in the contract. Don't tell anybody else, but tell the Rav that my stash in my closet, underneath whatever I have there, got a schmuck beer situation, or plus, make sure that it's sold. It doesn't matter that you're not going to be there. It has to be sold. Okay. Any questions about that section? Yes, section. Yes.
What about, in terms of kidneyot, what about products such as toothpaste?
Number 3. Give me a second. Kidneyot's number 3. You're on the ball. Yes.
You said stocks, it was like an Apple stock or something that's electronics,
No, we're talking about the products, things that are products, things that are being sold, like food stuff. I don't know.
What about if
Business.
I'm saying
They reinvest it?
Apple in the Apple's, some Apple's, companies place they have like food that's like something owned by Apple and
I got it. I hear you. Yeah, maybe an issue there. I didn't think about that. It's a good question. I'll think about that. Yeah, good question. Could be an issue because it's not directly saying, it's indirectly. It may be an issue. We'll look into it. Good question. Okay, number 3, kidneyot. This is one of the most important minhagim that you'll probably come in contact with because we get a lot of resistance about this. I know you like to be a Sephardi 1 week a year, then afterwards you go back to be Ashkenazi. I know it's till the 9 days, and then all of a sudden you want to be Sephardi again because you don't keep the 9 days. Very nice, and that's the famous joke. We know why the Sephardim, yeah, do slichot 40 days before because they eat kidneyot and they don't keep the 9 days, so they need forgiveness. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. But that's not going to help because we know where the truth is. Okay, anyway, so, by the way, I don't eat kidneyot. So, see, I'm with you. My Moroccans, some of them don't eat kidneyot. What does kidneyot mean? So, kidneyot has a few definitions. The most popular definition is any legumes, anything that, like beans, that could be, that either is in that family or anything that could be made into a flour, and that's one reason. The second thing is that anything that can be made into a flour that could be, God forbid, mistaken for wheat flour. Our sages, much later, what goes around it, the original reason is because in the rice, let's say like rice flour, etc., in the rice there were wheat kernels that inadvertently got mixed up there. So God forbid that could be a problem if someone would eat the rice. He may come to eat a kernel of rice and together with it some chita, some wheat, and therefore become chametz, and it is chametz. So they decided to outlaw any kidneyot. Now you're going to say, okay, that was then, not now. Now we have anybody allergic to anything, you'll be sued. And if God forbid there's anything else but 100% rice, so then why do we have to be so vigilant about it? It's mishuga, it's crazy. And I once got a call by someone who just got married to a Taimani woman, and the Taimani woman now got married to Ashkenazi, and he was obviously a kidneyot man, and now his wife, for the first time in her life, didn't have, God forbid, anything to eat because she was so used to it. I said, listen, I have a lot of things I could eat, and I'm a non-kidneyot man. I can send you some recipes. I'll tell my wife and my kids to send you some recipes, and everything will be okay. That's what happened. There's plenty to eat, gentlemen. There's plenty to eat. You can have potatoes, you can have vegetables, you could have speak to the health people. They'll say it's a good idea to be healthy now. We don't have to work on all of a sudden, pamba and rice cakes and all the other things that you guys need all year round. The stuff that you can eat, no problems. It's very important. You don't have to sell your kidneyot. It's not chametz. No one says in their right mind that rice is chametz or corn is chametz or legumes are chametz. It's not chametz as long as it's absolutely pure. It's not chametz. It doesn't. You can even own it on Pesach, but it has to be put away. We don't want you to eat it. Why? Because of a gezerah, of a rabbinical situation, that we don't want you to get involved with other things that may come to chametz. So therefore, they extended this rabbinical idea even on legumes and the like. But it's not chametz. Okay, so let's go back to the medications for a moment. A lot of times, the syrup or the pills are coated with a kidneyot issue. Okay, so now we have a question. God forbid I'm not well, and Ashkenazi who's not well. So what about it? We should wish him refuah. That's number one. Amen. And number two, he needs medication. Right? Needs medication. So the medication is now including kidneyot. Can he take it? Here, even though the kidneyot, had he been well, would have been an issue, but because he's not well, we lift this rabbinical idea where the situation calls for it. Now, I'm not saying that if a guy has a headache and any small little ailment, he could be lenient on the kidneyot. It has to be taken with, has to be taken with, with the mindset that this is a kidneyot issue. Let me see if I should take it or not. It's not just, I have a stuffy nose. Let me take some type of syrup which has a kidneyot. What's the right word? Solution. No, you have to think about it, and you have to ask someone. I made an acronym the other day. It's called STOP. S-T-O-P. I'll say it here again. STOP means syrup, think, ointment, pills. Stop and think what type of medication you're about to take that includes, God forbid, it shouldn't be any chametz. That's for sure a situation. That's for sure a serious situation. But for kidneyot, stop and think. If it's an ointment, you're not ingesting it, hopefully, right? We're not taking it topically, so that's not a problem at all. If it's a pill, it's a question mark. If it's a syrup, it's even more because usually it has taste. So therefore, stop and think what you're taking. That's a great way to remember it. I made it up. You can sell it in your own name. I don't care. Stop and think what type of medication you're taking and make that decision. Call a Rav and ask him, am I sick enough to be makel, to be lenient on the... You have to know what it's made out of, by the way. Check it. See what it's made out of. If it's a kidney situation, then you have a question. Okay. Obviously, if someone is so sick that he, God forbid, is going to die, we don't tell him he may die only because you ate matzah, and you won't die from the matzah either. But I'm saying, you obviously, in God forbid, face of death, you're allowed to be mechalel Shabbos, allowed to be mechalel Pesach. So you give the man what he needs, give the person what he needs. Okay, so I think that's a point that we have to make sure that people understand that even though kidney is very serious, but there are situations where it's okay to serve the person kidney. Another exception to the rule may or may not be those that are married and have children. Children. They're not on the madrega. They're not on the level to be so. We have different formulas, maternas, and other like things that are derivatives of kidney. Can I give it to my children? Well, how old are your children? How old are they? They're not 13. They're not 12. Does it make a difference? Yes, it does, because we have to mechanech them. Do they chap? Do they not chap? Is it an infant? Ask your local Orthodox rabbi, and he'll be able to tell you whether or not you can be lenient for the kidneyot for your children as well. Okay, obviously, number 4, this is an issue between Ashkenazi and Sfaradi. The reason why I mention this is not to be racist, God forbid, but because we have situations where an Ashkenazi will be eating by a Sfaradi's house, and vice versa, a Sfaradi will be eating by Ashkenazi house. It's usually not the case, but we have a problem because here the Ashkenazim are more stringent than the Sfaradim, because he's upgrading from kidneyot to non-kidneyot. The situation is usually when can an Ashkenazi person eat at the home of a Sfaradi, where the Sfaradi is lenient on the kidneyot issue, can they eat there or not? So, to make it a long story very short, the prevention of getting to chametz is only on the kidneyot itself. Even though there are very stringent ideas about this, and many people accept upon themselves even the taste of kidneyot that came from a kli, from a utensil, but in predicament, in a situation of need, we will be lenient that we're only talking about not eating the kidneyot themselves. Meaning, let's say you get a vibe at someone's house and you have to be there. You spoke it over with the Rav, and the Rav said you got to be there for whatever reason. To be continued another time. And he says, as long as you're not eating the actual rice itself, but it's cooked in a rice pot, but it's potatoes, that may be okay for that situation as per needed. Not as a rule, but it may be nogea, may be relevant. So keep that in mind, and that's why I put it down as Ashkenazi versus Sephardi, because you may want to know what you may not eat. Someone asked me the other day about a restaurant that officially serves non-kinniot. I don't know. What should I tell you? He spoke to me afterwards, and he tells me that, yeah, when they serve you the rice, they tell you to push it away. In America, they say, Hazak u baruch. You know what that means? Thank you very much. So you serve me kinniot, they tell me put it away. So we can't trust you. So if you can't trust you, so why are you going to the restaurant to begin with? Most restaurants are not even open on Pesach because of these situations and more. So be careful when the guy says, yeah, it's non-kinniot, and then you find yourselves involved with kinniot itself. Be careful. Okay, that's number 3. Should we stop here for a moment for questions? What time is it? Oh, yes. Questions, anybody? On this section, before we go further? Oh.
If we personally revoke the Kiddush,
That's a great question. Many have tried unsuccessfully. Because if you're Ashkenazi, it's not just like an neder, it could be it's like a halacha, so you can't just absolve yourself from it. The only case which wouldn't be relevant to you would be a woman who was a Sephardi that got married to an Ashkenazi husband, so then she upgraded herself, or the vice versa. She has,
family who did for this.
yeah. So it's a machlokas in the poskim Vater Nedarim really works. Some hold it does, some hold it doesn't. It's very.
They eat at their house, so not the Kiddush.
Yes. Yeah. The question is whether Hatarat Nedarim, annulling of vows, works. It's not a vow. It's not a vow. If it would be a vow, it would fall into that category. So if it's not a vow, how could you annul it? That's the situation. So it's a lot of ink has been spilled on this particular question. Excellent question. It's a subject of a lot of debate, and it's not so simple. But there's room to rely on it. It's not so simple. Okay. Yes, Rabbi.
What if you're not so sure your family's tradition? Like if you're about to tshuva and your family wasn't like.
Are you Ashkenazi, Rabbi?
I'm like.
What's your last name?
Rosenberg.
Got it. Anybody Sephardi Rosenberg here in this room? So Rosenberg sounds Ashkenazi. So I would say probably 99% you're Ashkenazi. So you got to keep it.
Right. I was just asking for the oil.
For the oilum? No, if you're Sephardi, then you have a chance. But if you're Ashkenazi, it's predominantly no chance. Okay, 2 more questions, yes?
Preventative or long-term medicine. You say you don't have symptoms right away, but you have high cholesterol.
Check it out. You could keep it as long as it's not chametz. And right, so if it's a chronic thing, it's a chronic thing, or you just need it just in case?
Not for me personally.
Yeah, I understand. If it's a chronic thing, so then he needs it. So then
How about preventative?
it depends what the risks are. You know what the risks are. If he needs it available, he needs it available.
Let's say you're deficient.
Vitamins, yeah, okay. So it depends on his health portfolio, but he should really speak about it to how much is his need, because there are substitutes for that week of Pesach for him to use. By the way, pet food. Anybody have pets that have chametz in it also have an issue, because the chametz is not only chametz for ingestion on yourself, but you're not allowed to derive any benefit from it. Even giving it to your pet as food is also a problem. So that's something you guys got to, I didn't put it down, I forgot. I'm sure I forgot a lot of things as well, but that's something you have to be aware of. I'm not eating it. My dog, my cat, my birds, whatever, my snake, whatever you have there. This is my alligator, my pet pony. Whatever you have there at home has to be taken care of. It has to be kosher Pesach. So it's not just the medications. Anything that you own that you may get some benefit from has to be taken care of. Second question? Oh, there's that too. Yes? Oh, toothpaste, right, I forgot. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, so that's part of the STOP acronym that I made. STOP acronym means that you're not ingesting something in your mouth. I hope that we don't eat toothpaste, right? We don't, even though we put it in our mouth, we don't eat it. It may taste good, but we don't eat it. Now, today is true that we have a lot of, relatively, I remember growing up, the toothpaste on Pesach was absolutely disgusting. I'm not going to say which company it was, but it was kosher Pesach. I think if you had teeth left after the toothpaste, you were lucky. So you had a choice either to use it or not to use it. I'm not sure which one was worse. In any event, so it was kosher Pesach toothpaste. But the MS is that kosher Pesach toothpaste may not be an issue because there's really no food there. But there are today a lot of products that are kosher Pesach. I suggest that if it's not a big deal, you should invest in them, even though you're not eating it. It's under the ointment. It's not something that it's in your mouth. So it's a little closer to swallowing, but it's not really, it's not really edible chametz, and it's not really chametz mamish at all. So it's not really an issue. What was the second thing? Toothpaste and? Soaps? Soap and shampoo. Soap and shampoo is the same issue because soap and shampoo is also under the O. There is the opinion of the Gaon of Vilna, and he says that anything that you anoint yourself or smear yourself on your body, especially for Pesach, is considered as if you ate it. It's a pasuk. It's like you eat it. So there are many, and this is the reason why there are many that have this chumrah not to use non-kosher Pesach soaps and shampoos and any other ointments, because smearing on the body topically, not for medication, I'm not talking about that, but just for pleasure, may be something that you should be aware of, because it's as if as if I ate it, as if I drank it, not mamash, as if. That's a chumrah. That's a chumrah. So you may not want to, be up to that. So it's your choice. But I'm just saying that today, Baruch Hashem, we live in Tafshin Pei Bet, and therefore there's a lot of plenty of products out there that are kosher Pesach that are just as good. And there's lists that are kosher Pesach. They have substitutes that even though may not have hechsher, but it doesn't have any derivatives or anything else. But kiddiyot will not be a problem to use as a ointment. That's not a problem at all, because not even putting it in your mouth. So therefore, I suggest that you look into that. Yes.
Well, I was going to say now, like pet food, you're never going to eat it.
It's wrong, because pet food is hana. You as an owner are giving your pet X, Y, or Z. Otherwise, you'd have to give him something else. So you're deriving benefit. And the issur of chametz is not just to eat it, but it's also not to have any hana, any pleasure from it. That's considered pleasure. So therefore, that has to be taken care of. So when you own that, so then it's considered owning something of chametz that is usher, off limits. That's the problem. Yes, Rabbi.
Shampoo that has chametz in it, do we have to sell it?
I don't think it's edible, really. I don't think it has to sell. I think you just put it away. Okay, anybody else before we go on to the next section, gentlemen? Yes. Rabbi Yonah. You don't have to sell the crumbs. It's pachas mikazayis. You don't have to sell the crumbs, but you have to be careful how it gets involved in your food. That's all. Selling it, it's all chametz that's edible. If it's crumbs that are not edible at all, it's dirt. If it's crumbs that's edible, so you don't have to sell it necessarily, unless it's in a place where everything gets together because it's in one place, it becomes a kazayis. Probably not the situation. Let's say individual crumbs. It's not. You're not obligated to sell it, but you should watch yourself when you're eating together with that crumb counter or crumb book, whatever the crumbs are. That's the problem. Even if you ingest that's other crumbs of somebody else, you ate chametz, even though it's not yours. You don't own it, but you ate it. Eating it, if I eat someone else's chametz, I'm also having a problem, right? I can't go over to Tony and say, give me the chametz. So even though the chametz may have been sold to Tony, but Tony's chametz that I ate is also a problem. So you have to be careful when you're eating together with the chametz of crumbs. Last question, anybody? Yes. It's not really edible chametz. It's not really edible. Yeah, right. All of this is only for edible chametz. From chametz that has half enough from, right. So that's edible. It's the royal achilas kelev. He's giving it to his dog. He's giving it to his pet. It's obviously edible. That's what the problem is. Okay, gentlemen, let's go further. Number 4. Number 4. Actually, we may have time to finish everything. Number 4. Okay, number 4. The Pesach Seder. This year, gentlemen, you are in luck. You're in luck. Why? Because Pesach is also Shabbos. Friday night is Pesach. For those of us that are keeping 2 days, Motzei Shabbos is also Pesach. So you have 2 nights of the Seder. Okay, this is an amazing opportunity. Why? Because usually when Pesach doesn't fall out on a Friday night, we have an issue when we have non-Jews coming to our house for Pesach. I know, Baruch Hashem, we live in a world where we have religious people and we have non-religious people, and then unfortunately we have assimilated people that are either married or have girlfriends or boyfriends, whatever it may be, that love to come into the Pesach Seder. And the non-Jew is the one that's asking the best questions. Always. Whether it's in your class, like I had experience with, or it's at the Pesach Seder. It's always the non-Jew who's paying the most attention. For goodness sakes, can't you get the other person who's Jewish to pay more attention? Nope. He or she are paying the most attention. And then they become Jewish, and the Jewish guy or the Jewish girl is like, not so bad, not so bad. What do you mean? This is amazing. Don't you get it? Pesach Seder, Shabbos, Kashrut, don't you get it? I got it. Slow down. Maybe we don't want to be related anymore. Bye-bye. After Pesach, maybe find someone else to be connected with. Okay, but anyway, so we have an issue, which is, I'll put it out there for you, that on a normal year, a non-Friday night, Yom Tov of Pesach, we have an issue because non-Jews at my Pesach table is a problem twofold. One is not really a problem because we're not supposed to teach Torah to non-Jews. But Baruch Hashem, the Seder is laden with faith-based material, so you should not have a problem. Because as long as it's faith-based emuna is not a problem. You can teach emuna to anybody, non-Jews alike, so that's not an issue. Plus, you're not directing it to the non-Jew as teaching him or her. You're directing it to the whole entire table, and he's listening or she's listening, no problem. When he or she asks a question which is directed at her, that may be an issue, so you have to be able to direct it to the whole group and answer the question as well, and therefore, you won't be teaching Torah to the non-Jew, he or herself. That's like, we can deal with that. The real issue is that someone who's a host has an issue of maybe he'll come to cook especially for the non-Jew on the Yom Tov. And the Torah tells us that cooking, even though it's permissible on Yom Tov, is only permissible for Jews, not for non-Jews. So how is that possible? Well, it's only possible if it be Yom Tov. But guess what, gentlemen? This year is Friday night, Shabbos! You can't cook it all! All the food has to be prepared from yesterday, from Friday. Walla, walla, walla. I didn't say to bring all your non-Jewish friends to your Pesach Seder, but I just giving you the heads up. Therefore, there's no problem. There's no problem of the non-Jew being on Friday night. Saturday night? Oh. But they're not there the second day anyway, so we're free. So the first night, that's where everyone comes, right? So the first night, even though God forbid there could be a non-Jewish person that is related or involved, etc., be aware that this year is much more, it's not totally lenient than any other year where Pesach doesn't fall out on a Friday. That's an important point. Number 2, 15 steps. Gentlemen, I implore every single one of us here today to go out and buy an Agada now. Not the second after Mincha, but afterwards, buy an Agadah. If you don't have one, buy, invest, take notes, make sure that you know what's going on. There are 15 steps of the Agadah. Anybody that, Baruch Hashem, you listened to Rabbi Schloss's class this morning, so you should be involved in the 15 steps. Those 15 steps is a must to be aware of, so you shouldn't be someone who doesn't know what's flying. Get to know the names, get to know the steps, so you know what to expect. Write notes as you go along, and take that Agadah. Make sure you're not eating your pizza next to the Agadah, so you can bring it to the Seder table, no crumbs, and therefore it will be Pesach dik, and you'll bring that Agadah to your Seder table, and you will be properly prepared in order to be elevated through the Pesach Seder experience. I implore you to do it ASAP. Okay, now, the first step of the Pesach Seder is called Kiddush. In the Pesach Seder, it's called Kadesh. Kadesh, this year, God willing, is Friday night. So even though normally we may have 2 volumes of wine. Wine is the beverage of choice. Don't bring beer to the Pesach Seder, guys. Don't bring beer. I know this may sound crazy, but I heard a story. I'm not going to say who it is, because you may know who it was. He's not here anymore. He brought a 6-pack of beer to his host, and the guy says, "Oh, Shabbat." Right there, leave that right there. What, Rabbi? You don't like Budweiser? I love Budweiser, but not now. Leave it out of my house. Yeah, I can't. It's chum. I can't believe it. Beer is chametz. I forgot. I'm so bad. No problem. Just leave it on the side, then we'll promptly go to the Seder table as, I thought you loved. I do, but not tonight. So don't do that. So beer is not this beverage of choice. Hope he never sees this video. Okay, anyway, but the share of beer, the share of wine is either 86 cc's or 150 cc's. It's either a smaller cup or a larger cup, almost double. But for Shabbos, that doubles as a Yom Tov, or let's call it Yom Tov that doubles as a Shabbos, it's Kedai. I can't say it's 100% imperative. It's Kedai. It's beneficial to invest on the first cup of the 4 cups of wine. Everyone knows, right? The 4 cups of wine. I'm hoping that Rabbi Schloss did a great job. I'm sure he did, of telling you what's going on in the Seder. So the 4 cups of wine, the first of the 4 cups this year, is going to double as a Kiddush, Kadesh, Kiddush. Step number 1 is going to double as a Kiddush for Yom Tov as well as a Kiddush for Shabbos, and therefore it's more desirable to use the larger of the 2. Why am I saying this now? To shiurim. Why am I saying this now? Because the halacha is that the 4 cups of wine have to be drunk lechatchila, ideally, a whole cup at a time. Right? Rabbi Shlosh told you this, right? A whole cup at a time. If you can't, then the majority of the cup. Now, we have 2 shiurim. We have 150 and we have 186 cc's. The halacha says that rather drink total 86 cc's, the smaller of the 2 shiurim, than to drink the majority of 150 cup wine. Because even though you're making the blessing on the cup of wine, which is 150, but you're not drinking it. So it's better, ideally, to finish the full cup, which is 86, than to drink the majority of the larger. Now, that's on all the other three. This year, since Kiddush is on Shabbos as well, so maybe it may be more imperative to use a larger cup and drink the first of the four totally. If a guy can't drink wine, he mixes it with grape juice, etc., 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 until, Baruch Hashem, he has mostly wine and some grape juice, but ideally, you should use red wine, and all the halachos of the Seder, I'm sure Rabbi Shlosh took care of, so we're not going to go into that right now, but that is an important point to remember. The rest, the three other cups, besides the first of the four, you can use an 86 size cup. But this year, because of its nature of Kiddush being for Shabbos, I suggest that you use a larger one for the first one. Okay, Saturday night, what's the Shabbos? For those that are going to keep 2 days, you have to remember that Kiddush here is different than any other Kiddush, because you're going to include a Havdalah. In the Gemara jargon, it's called Yak Nahaz. That's not Chinese. No, it's not Chinese. Yak Nahaz is an abbreviation for 5 steps. Yain, Kiddush, Ner, Havdalah, Zman. That is the 5 steps in the Kiddush. You include Havdalah. You include blessing on the fire of the. You came from Shabbos, not going to Yom Tov. It's mutter to cook, not take a night to fire, but to at least cook and use fire, etc. And Shechianu, which is the last of the brachas, which also, even though you made it last night, you're doing it again tonight. Okay, so therefore, those that are keeping 2 days have to realize that the Kiddush cup, the first of the 4, is going to double as a Havdalah on the second night as well. Okay, enough said about that. So that's the shiurim of the cup of wines, or the cups of wine. Now, what about the shiurim of the matzah? Baruch Hashem, we have a lot of matzah here, and Baruch Hashem, Gil also took care of it for us. We have machine shmura matzah, and we have hand shmura matzah. You guys know the difference, right? The hand is usually the round ones, and the machine usually the square ones. Machine shmura matzah. Most people, and I think that this is something you should try your best to do, eat shmura matzah, the guarded matzah, the one that we are severely involved in. Make sure that there's no chametz at all for the Seder night. You want to use hand, that's the most traditional way, the round ones, or shmura machine, that's fine. Most people try to use the hand matzah. Okay, the hand matzah, there are those that don't, but it's shmura. The rest of the Yom Tov, they may not be eating shmura. But for the Pesach Seder, because of the mitzvah of eating matzah tonight, it's so important. We want to be the best type of matzah possible, halachically, so we invest in the shmura matzah situation. So that's what you should be doing. You should be eating shmura matzah. How much? So make it very simple. Right, that's one answer. A lot, is what he said. A lot of matzah. To make it very simple, you have to eat a half. I'm only talking about the first kazais, the first halachic size of an olive for the first eating of the matzah. By the way, as a side note, there's only 2 mitzvahs that we have today that is biblically obligated in the form of eating. 2 eating biblical mitzvahs. One is eating matzah on the night of Pesach, and the second one is, gentlemen, no, a different holiday. No, almost. Cheesecake, okay, no. Different holiday, no. Erev Yom Kippur, gentlemen. Erev Yom Kippur. Erev Yom Kippur. Erev Yom Kippur is the day in which we have to eat biblically. So it's a very geshmak mitzvah. I know you thought, I thought someone was going to tell me Purim, but it's not biblical. It's only rabbinical. Okay, we have to end, so we have another few minutes. So I'm just point out. So therefore, tonight you should be eating the matzah, the kazayit, which is a half, on average, of machine matzah, and close to a third of a hand matzah for any kazayit. So we'll make it very short. The kazayit of the first achilas matzah is imperative, so make sure you eat that leaning to the left. Even though you're a lefty, you'll be uncomfortable by using your right hand. We want you to live. We don't want you to die. If you eat on the right side, you may choke. Scientifically, the epiglottis opens up and lets the food go down, so we'd rather lean on the left. And even though you're uncomfortable with your right hand, I wish you luck and good Yom Tov after you finish matzah, so that we want you to be alive afterwards, not choke. So that's why you lean to the left, and you have to eat a kazayit. So it's a third of a hand matzah, and usually a half of a machine matzah. The rest of the days of Yom Tov, the matzah is not a obligation. But if you do eat matzah during the rest of Yom Tov, you're not allowed to eat chametz, gentlemen. You may not eat chametz the whole 7 days or 8 days if you keep 2 days. You're not allowed to eat chametz, but you're not obligated to eat matzah. You can subsist on everything else, but you can't eat chametz. But the only time that you're mechuyev, you're obligated to eat matzah, is the night of Pesach. You must make sure to eat a kazayis of matzah before halachic midnight. Before halachic midnight. Otherwise, you eat it without a bracha. But you have to eat it before halachic midnight. Make sure that wherever you're going to gets his case cracking right away. That's another halacha. Okay, we're talking about bishul and wine. We're going to have to cut this short for number 5. We're going to leave that for a different time. But just to end right now, I suggest, because of the non-Jewish people, participants that we know may be coming to our Seder table, I suggest to invest in bishul, yain mevushal, wine that's cooked. We have a lot of wines. I know the connoisseurs here are upset that we don't have good wine because they're all cooked, but I'm telling you, there's gishmak wine out there that's cooked. Speak to the Mevinim, speak to the experts, and they know much better than I do. I'm not an expert, but they know that there's good wine. If you're having a person who, God forbid, is not Shomer Shabbos or non-Jewish, make sure you invest in mevushal wine, cooked wine, even though there is something to say about, making sure that the wine is at its best possible for the mitzvah, for the 4 cups, but don't risk it. It's not going to risk it. Get mevushal wine. Gentlemen, I wish you guys all a great Yom Tov.